Hi, my name is Gina Atuna Ulis. I am originally from Haiti. I live in the US. I am a US citizen. I am an artist, multimedia, interdisciplinary artist, and I am also an anthropologist and a professor of humanities at University of California, Santa Cruz. My work practice stems around what I call rassemblage, which is a Haitian Creole word. That means a gathering of ideas, people, things, and spirits. And at the heart of it is the building and making and maintaining of networks, relationships to explore various themes. This is my very first, hopefully not my last, Dak'Art Biennale, for which I created the work that you see behind me, titled For Those Among Us Who Inherited Sacrifice, parmi ceux entre nous qui ont hérité du sacrifice. And for me, really, it's my homage to Senegal, because when I was growing up in Haiti, I had a very clear concept of where Senegal was in Africa, because it was there in my history books. So when I spoke with the artistic director, Salimata Diop, and she wanted to know what I was thinking about, I was in Italy at the time at a residency, and I said, well, I can see a cascade of calbas. That was, of course, the first thing that I thought of. And then in karis, because I usually work with calabashes and karis. And months later, I found out that I had to send in a more formal proposal, that the proposal had been selected to be on the facade. I knew of Senegal, I'd read about Senegal. So in February, I came, and I remember being in a taxi. The first thing I made the taxi driver do was at night. I said, I want to go see the Palais, because I wanted to see the space. And then the next morning I came, daylight, and I started to walk on the steps and my knees went, because I realized how monumental whatever I did had to be if it was going to honor this honor, right? Because this recognition, for the first time, the Biennale has decided to put something on the facade. I'm originally from Haiti, so that's already, to put a Haitian artist at the forefront of the Dak'Art Biennale is another huge honor. And I knew, as I stated earlier, that this was an opportunity to both honor my birth country and to honor Senegal. The calabash for me is one of the most African things there is. Karis also, and I like the fact that they have all these different significations. We know that it is aesthetically beautiful. We know that it was used for the exchange of enslaved Africans. We also know that it's used for divination and mystic practices. So I was very excited about having an opportunity to play with material and at the same time try to tell a story that was going to first attract people. And I remember Clémence Farrell, who is the scenograph, at one point, took me outside, and we were on our way from the taxi, and she said, what's the first thing you see? Because my original proposal was to have something on the left side. And it was while we were there, and I knew, and they said, why are you hiding? Why do you want to go on that side? Because the first thing you see when you're coming this way is the middle door. So as you come closer, I can tell you, the strings, for example, the strings were in effect once, because we were working with the May date. In February, after I came, I employed someone locally, Isabel Gomez, who was like my assistant. And one of the things that we did was identify people who could make the strings, because that's not something you wait and do at the last minute, right? So there are strings that are 3 meters long, there are some that are 5, there are some that are 6, and some that are 8, so you can have that cascading effect. So as you go up, and then the karis had to be strategically placed so that you can really get this sort of waterfallish sense. But there's also the whole issue of form that I had to think about. The calbas were sourced over time. We had some, and one of the curators, Marinette, was held some calabash at her house. I fell in love with the Kenkeli Bati. When I first saw it, I just thought it's beautiful. I knew it was a good tea, but it's also aesthetically gorgeous when you think about the palm and the spirals. So I didn't know how I was going to incorporate it in the work, but I knew eventually it would be in the work. I commissioned a local artist to do some of the calabashes that you see. Three, like the brightest one up there, is actually done by Astou Diop, who's the Senegalese artist person, because I wanted to make sure that this reflected a collective. Right here is the head of it. And I call it la queue, but la queue is also the future. I wanted young people to build it because they're young. It's their future. They live on the African continent. I don't. And I was very, very, very fortunate because I arrived here very early. I got here on the 15th, and the students started to work. We created this long, long piece, and I had a calabash that Nunu of Nunu Design had given me that was broken. And I decided to break it into 54 pieces for the 54 countries of Africa. Yes, we did. This was important to me. And then the students are the ones, with my instruction, they were hanging out, having fun. And they put the carries and the pieces on the queue. And then the marriage of these two pieces, this other piece with the 11 big all the way down, that piece I call it the lost ones. And it's a reference to those who perished during the Middle Passage because we are looking directly at the Atlantic, which is like literally right here. So the lost ones, the ancestors are protecting the youth and the youth are protecting the ancestors.